And welcome in for another episode of Building the Broncos. I am Carl Dumler, your host, and of course, I've got Mr. Luke Patterson joining me today. Nick is on the road. I think he's hanging out in some mountains right now or something, being a mountain man. So, he doesn't have the beard to be the mountain man like we do.
No.
But
No, not a Nick, a mountain man. I mean, we're
yeah.
already starting the show with jokes.
But so you get Luke and I twice this week. Very, very exciting. Tuesday and Saturday. And so make sure you're tuning in for MHI as well, Mile High Insiders. But today, of course, you get Building the Broncos. And so very excited. We got some cool things going on. Broncos are 10 practices into training camp. We are, 3 weeks from the game?
Yep.
Something like
3
that.
weeks away, man. It's football's right around the corner. It's here.
Yeah, man. So, it's exciting time. We got a lot of cool things we're going to be talking about today. Maybe some positions that worry us a little bit about the team. Maybe some positions that get us excited. A little bit of update on some injuries, things like that. So a lot of things to cover. And so I want to make sure that we get plenty of time for that. So make sure you're following us on Twitter. You can find me at Carl Dumler MHH and Luke at Luke Patterson LP. And of course, Nick, even though he's gone, we'll put his name out there too, at Nick Kindle MHH. And you can follow the podcast Twitter account at BTV Football Pod. And subscribe to our show wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a rating. It really means a lot to us, guys. And then also, of course, head on over to milehighhuddle.com of Sports Illustrated. There's going to be a lot of great articles coming out. We've got cuts coming up. Again, season's 3 weeks away from kicking off. So much going on. So make sure you head over there. And also note that our podcast is powered by Overtime Media. All right, real quick, I did want to give a little shout out to some of our people that have already tuned in here. Of course, Ernie always has to get the first comment.
What up, Ernie? We got Ernie, and I gotta give thoughts and props to Terry Randall, always throwing in here. Appreciate you, Terry. We see you, baby.
Yep. Toy Mafia coming in. Stir Fry. Got Robert Skinner, Dennis Elliott coming in here, Robert Kitchens, of course, ZW Designs. Make sure you guys are checking out the new shirt that he designed. It's fire.
Sick. It's sick. It's
good.
Sick. It's super sick. It would be the sickest shirt ever, but ours is going to be. And, I got to get it. So this is a good time, I guess, to give that plug. Go get some swag, too. Go over to our Mile High Huddle store. Grab some stuff. We've got new stuff that was just released. But ZW Designs, go check out the Huddle Up podcast from Sunday. Because Carl's exactly right. Chad, Zach, ZW Designs, special guest. Release that shirt, man, and dude, I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna get a couple. That thing looks fly. So we got to plug that shirt.
Yes.
We appreciate it
very much. So, but we got Todd Anderson as well. Duke joining us here as well. Thank you, Duke. For kicking in here. Pabby, yes, good to see you back in here. Hope everything's well in Iowa. You just had a couple good ones leave there this week, so you're gonna have to hold down the fort for Iowa on us. And then Broncos guy 2490, appreciate you kicking in here. Darian P as well. Ryan Hamilton, man, we got a good crew here today.
Yeah, we got Wiz, we got Mundungus, dude. Mundungus, I don't know if you saw MHI last Saturday, but Mundungus was just savage to Nick. I mean, was just throwing down the hammer on Nick. So I'm happy to see McDungus back in the house. But yeah, man, I'm pumped to be a part of Building the Broncos today. And would definitely encourage everybody, go get a Building the Broncos hat. We also have the Dove Valley Deep Divers. I said it all in one time without screwing it up. And the Huddle Up podcast, and of course, Mile High Insiders. But dude, I'm super pumped to get to the show because we were talking about ideas, and the elephant in the room right now at training camp is injuries, right? I mean, and it seems to be hitting the NFL. It's that time of year. The Broncos aren't the only ones, but man, Carl, when you start to look at where the Broncos are getting hit, there's some significant areas of concern.
Yeah, and it seems like they're getting hit at like 3 positions, and that's it. Wide receiver, cornerback, and linebacker.
And for once, not tight end.
Yeah.
knock on wood. We're still we're still in training. Down. Yeah, we're still in training camp, and we do still have Jake Budd on the roster. So we gotta be careful there.
And it does kind of bring us to our topic here today. And I did want to get real quick, Terry Randall coming in with our first super chat. Cheers to the beards. Of course, I trimmed mine down today a little bit.
You're looking good, man. I'm
Thank
letting
you.
mine. I'm letting mine go wild, man. I'm trying
Yeah.
this new workout thing, trying to clean up the diet, and I'm just figuring I'm gonna go full caveman and look like a Neanderthal, and maybe my face won't look better, but maybe my health will. So we're
There
gonna
you
give
go.
that a go, dude. But
Yeah.
yeah, the beard's trimmed up. It's looking good. I love it. Appreciate you, Terry.
Yeah, really appreciate that. And but yeah, so it does kind of bring us to our big topic here of what position worries us. And now it can be tied to injuries, it can be not tied to injuries. And of course, let's just take tackle off the table because that's everybody's number one concern. Let's put that out there. That's going to be there, unfortunately, throughout the year. There's not much the Broncos can do about it. There's no great tackle that's going to hit free agency or that's going to come walking through the door. What they've got to stick with.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's take tackle off of the board. And while Carl and I can sit here and make fun of the GB zone all night, we just can't do it. So, yeah, let's take tackle off the board. We got John R. Mitch coming in. Loving that hat from Carl. That's got to make Carl feel good, folks. We had somebody ripping on those hats the other day, dude. And those hats are fly, man. Same colors as my Mile High Huddle hat. And love the logo. It's a dope logo. We got to get Chad to make some decals, though, man, because I want a decal of every single show and stuff like that. So that is coming. But yeah, man, you're exactly right. We got to take tackle off of the board because it is what it is. You stick with the devil you know, and maybe the devil you don't know, and Dotson coming on the team. But we could be here all night making fun of Garrett Bowles, and we're just not going to do it. So that being said, I guess I'm just going to go ahead and drop the bomb. Linebacker. I am really, really worried about the linebackers. Justin Sternad obviously having surgery on Sunday, out for the season. That is a huge loss for the Denver Broncos. Now, while I feel like people want to go ahead and say, hey, pump the brakes, he's still a rookie in the late rounds, he wasn't going to start, that might be true, but he was going to see significant playing time, especially on the special teams unit. So knowing that he went down right after Todd Davis went down, and we'll get to the Todd Davis injury in a little bit, but just not feeling really good about our linebackers, man, when one's going down per week the last 2 weeks.
Right. And it does sound like Todd Davis is expected back here maybe next week, hopefully. The Broncos absolutely need him, especially that first game. Going against Derrick Henry, you need that run thumper. I mean, just look at how
machine.
Right. Look how much they missed him those first few weeks of last season. Just
it's funny. It's funny because I don't feel like Todd Davis is really appreciated. And I'm trying to think, and maybe you'll know offhand where he was drafted. Was he a mid to late round draft pick, like fourth, fifth round?
I feel like he was undrafted.
Was he? Okay. So I feel like the Broncos, no matter what, undrafted or late round, we know he wasn't a round 1 through 3 linebacker. So not being that premier linebacker, the Broncos have definitely got a return on investment with Todd Davis. And the guy's a tackling machine. And it's funny, I was just talking to my dad right before the show saying, man, Todd Davis, we got to get him back on the field. And my dad's not super high on Todd Davis. And I'm like, well, yeah, but the guy's been the leading tackler, the last 2 years. He went down in training camp. I get the injuries, but Todd Davis is a locker room guy too. That's something that he brings, leadership. And I think a huge part of his game is intelligence and studying film. I think he's a film rat. I think he's the type of linebacker Fangio likes in terms of the work ethic and everything like that. So it's absolutely a loss, whether you love him or you hate him. His production speaks for itself.
Right. Well, and you always have to remember when one guy goes down, that means another guy has to move up, and then another guy's like everybody moves up one spot. And it just makes it that much thinner at everything else. And like you said, special teams for linebackers is a huge deal. And so losing Sternad, even if he wasn't going to be a huge player on defense, he was going to be a huge player on special teams. So yeah, that linebacker spot is a huge spot of worry right now. Again, Todd Davis's injury not being as bad as last year is kind of just that great moment of a sigh of relief kind of thing for you. But it's still, I'm not liking where the linebackers are. Josie Jewell, just he's a try-hard guy. And I love that. I mean, he's smart. He wants to give you everything he's got, but he just doesn't have it. Like you get to the NFL, you still have to have a little something athletically to be able to make it.
Yeah.
unless you're a punter or kicker, but
Yeah,
that's another story.
he's just a couple decades late. I mean, he's actually probably 3 or 4 decades late. It's like I think of the 90s, because I'm only 29 years old, is like only 10, 15 years ago, and I have to remind myself it wasn't. But no, you're exactly it, man. Josie Jewell, it's not the try hard league, it's the do good league, and it's just. Man, I wish he could. Yeah, I wish he was faster. I do, and then he'd be a perfect linebacker. But it is what it is. We had John coming in, and maybe Bwanabis, you could throw that back up on there, saying sign Wesley Woodyard. Now, Carl, I put out a tweet yesterday and got some love, got some hate from it, and just throwing out the available ex-Broncos that are out there. John coming in here with sign Wesley Woodyard. Appreciate that. Wesley Woodyard from the Tennessee Titans. On the street, walking around, former Bronco and captain. Corey Nelson, also out there. Brandon Marshall, he's there for the taking. And a lot of people forget about Shane Ray. And I know a lot of people are quick to jump on right away. He's a pass rusher. I know. Or lack thereof. I get it. But I've thought about Shane Ray a lot this week. And the first thing I thought about Shane Ray was when I heard of Justin Sternad's injury with that wrist. Shane Ray also had a wrist injury. Anytime I hear wrist now, I really cringe because I feel like something that shouldn't be such a significant injury, it really is. I mean, I've talked to Shane. I've gone to dinner with him and his mom. I've talked to him about, hey, man, like, what's the deal with the wrist? Tell me why it's so hard to recover. And it's like, dude, I can't lift weights. I can't put on muscle. I can't maintain muscle. So you got John coming in here with Shane Ray still working out with Vaughn. Yeah, I've seen that too. And you guys can go check that out. I think he's at Stingray on Twitter. Shane's a great guy. I wish the Broncos would have used him a little bit differently. Injury and all that stuff aside, I think if you could have put some weight on Shane Ray, I'd have been really curious to see what he did on the inside.
Yeah. I'll throw another name out here. He has no ties to the Broncos, but Mark Barron.
Yep.
He played for the Steelers last year. That was maybe the top defense in football last year.
Sure.
And he was kind of their nickel linebacker. And that was what Sternad was supposed to be for the Broncos. That as the season progressed, they were hoping that maybe he could step in there, be their coverage guy, because that's what he really showed there a lot in college. And so that's a guy that kind of makes sense to me. Now, he did get paid $6 million a year this last year, so I don't know how expensive of a deal that he's going to want. And I'm not wanting to go out there and spend a ton of money, especially when you got guys, like you said, of Wesley Woodyard, Brandon Marshall, some of those guys that you could probably get on a vet minimum deal.
And you're probably
a nice insurance piece.
Yeah, you're probably going to get, to be honest with you, probably minimum performance. See, that's a lot of tread on the tire, man. Wesley Woodyard's going to be playing when our kids are playing, high school football and stuff like that. I mean, it's like him and Frank Gore have just, they won't let it go, man. But another name I'm thinking of already for the linebacker, I don't want to spend the whole show on the linebacking crew, but it's been the news, man. This week has been the news. It's in last week too. Todd Davis, Justin Sternad. I look at a guy like Josh Watson, inside linebacker out of CSU. He was undrafted. Got to evaluate him at his local pro day, and I quietly like to think that Vic Fangio stashed him off to the side, and maybe Ed Donatell's been working with him. What do you think about Watson from CSU, undrafted, heading into his second year with the Broncos?
Well, I mean, I will say the Broncos have probably been one of the best teams at getting value out of their linebackers. I mean, you think of Brandon Marshall, you think of Todd Davis, you think of a Wesley Woodyard, even Danny Trevathan. All those guys were either late round or undrafted guys that have done pretty darn well for their NFL career. They've gotten those second contracts. They've went out there, made some decent money, and even become team captains, gotten the green dot on their helmet, as I saw. I think it was James talking about that earlier about Todd Davis, that as much as you might not like his game, he's still the guy out there making all the calls. He's getting everybody lined up where they need to be. And like you said, he's smart, absolutely smart on the field. And so all those things, the Broncos have gotten value out of nothing. And so it wouldn't surprise me if a guy like Watson all of a sudden turned into something and became a decent playmaker, or at least a guy that could hold the fort down until Todd Davis gets 100% or whatever you need here. I'm forgetting one of the best ones for the Broncos, Alexander Johnson, undrafted guy. And that's another one that's kind of turned into a little bit of a star for the Broncos.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And Josh Watson, he brings good size to the game at 6'2", 240. I think last year he only had a couple tackles in the season, so didn't really see a lot, but he's 24 years old. He's young. Fangio said he liked him last year, so, stashed him away and kept him away from other teams, and here he is with the Broncos again. So I'm wondering, if a young linebacker could step up. He's probably the guy that I'd be watching right now. He's wearing number 54, Brandon Marshall's old number. So it looks kind of odd, though, Carl. I don't know if you've
He's
noticed
big.
that. When
He's a big guy.
yeah. When you see him, man, and you remember Brandon Marshall in 54, they're two different bodies. I mean,
Right.
and you're definitely able to remember that's not Brandon Marshall wearing.
Yeah.
54. But yeah, the linebackers, man, that's something that I've been a little curious about as to why the Broncos haven't brought anybody in. And that's something Vic Fangio was asked about today. I think Mike Kliss might have asked him, do you continue to evaluate the linebacking talent and things of that nature? And he said, always. Your player's health is always going to affect the roster. I have a good feeling that Todd Davis will be healthy in time and ready to roll, but he's going to be limited for a while. So Coach didn't want to give up his whole hand, but you got to think John Elway's on the phone. You got to think John Elway's looking at film at Donville, right? I mean, are we waiting for the Broncos to make a move, or do they think they are able to ride this out?
I think they'll make a move. You got an open roster spot. You got some decent names out there. A couple others like Darren Lee is another one. Nigel Bradham is another. Ogletree is another that I've seen in the comments.
Ogletree I've thought about a little bit too.
Yeah, and so you got a lot of names out there at the linebacker spot. You can go find a guy that can be a quality backup that has starting experience, been in the league for a while, all those kind of things. And tomorrow's an off day. Yep. Those are usually the days that they like to do a lot of evaluation, kind of see, okay, let's dig into the film. Do we feel comfortable with a guy like Watson or Joe Jones or Josie Jewell? Do we feel comfortable with these guys being our true backups? And if they look at the film and say, okay, nope, never mind. These guys are not up to par of what we need. And so then it wouldn't surprise me if they get a phone call and by Thursday they got a guy in here competing.
Yeah, going through the necessary process that is now signing with a team and visiting a team and things of that nature. And you got me thinking, Carl, I mean, they could very well be already in that process right now. It takes time to bring a player in. It takes time to, I mean, these things could be going. I haven't heard anything yet. And, by no means am I the hear all, say all or anything like that. But, yeah, man, it's definitely something we need to watch for. But we've got Chris Hernandez coming in. Chris, I appreciate you. Cheers to the Beards. So I love that Super Bowl 50 background you got there, man. Absolutely.
I think it's a mug.
Is it a mug? It's a beard sign?
Yeah.
Nice. I love it. Look at that. Your eyes are better than mine.
So he's doing a cheers to us, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Chris.
Cheers.
Sorry, I don't have the good mug.
Appreciate you, man. Chris, appreciate that support. But yeah, man. So when I start to think about these linebackers and being hurt, this is Vic Fangio's thing, right? He's the linebacker guru. He's supposed to have his fingerprints all over these linebackers. Well, okay, you better fix it, Vic. And if you think that, Alexander Johnson, I hear you. He's great. Definitely return on investment. But he can't cover anybody either. I mean, it's a problem when Todd Davis was your best coverage linebacker, and that's a matter of try hard. And you look at Josie Jewell and Todd Davis, and you're like, man, they both try hard. Well, yeah, Todd Davis is a lot more of an athlete than Josie Jewell, though. So it's a big problem for Alexander Johnson, and I've seen him doing some agility drills and things like that, and that's all fine and good, and I hope he's loose and ready to go. But sometimes you have to accept what a player can and cannot do.
Right.
Who's going to cover tight end, man? I mean, yeah, you've got some safeties and stuff like that, but you've also got burners in the AFC West with Henry Ruggs and, of course, Tyreek Hill. It's just been a question that continues to plague the Broncos, and it makes me it drives me nuts because I'm sick of saying the word tight end. I'm so sick of Kelsey. I'm sick of all of it. So what do you do for pass coverage? I mean, Alexander Johnson, meh. Todd Davis, meh. Josie Jewell, no. It's just I don't know where you go.
Here's one of Justin Hollins. They have moved him to inside linebacker full-time now. And that's something, I mean, part of me, I hate when they do the whole have a player part-time here, part-time there when they're trying to learn both. Just stick them in one. Let them learn one really well.
Elijah Wilkinson. We're not talking about offensive tackles.
Yeah. I'm thinking of even DeMarcus Walker.
Right.
You know, they had him moving all over, cutting weight, putting weight back on. It just doesn't work well. And there's very few players that can be those hybrid guys. Why am I spacing on the safety for the Chargers?
Oh,
Derwin James.
Yes,
Yeah,
James.
there we go.
Yep.
Yeah, he can play everywhere. But
he's a freak.
Right, exactly. You got those freak guys. And so I would like to see Justin Holland stick at one position. I do think his best position is outside linebacker, because that's what he did mostly at college. Yep. But if you're gonna have him play inside, like let him learn that full time so he can get good at it, because he's what, 6'4"?
He's huge, dude. I hate him at inside linebacker. I hate it. I'd seen him in person last year. You saw him. I mean, he's huge. He belongs on the outside. I mean, those arms and everything like that, and he's thin. He's a thin guy, and I don't know if they're trying to pack a bunch of weight on that big frame or what, but man, you know, I don't like Hollins on the inside. I love Hollins on the Broncos, don't get me wrong, but I think it's a real misuse. And like you said, man, when you have a player with 1 foot here and 1 foot there and not really knowing where they're going in terms of position, time's not really a luxury that you have right now, especially with this season. So that was a really good comment. I appreciate you pulling that up, and would like to give credit to whoever threw that up there. I forget their name, because that was awesome. And then we got Eclipse coming in. Jewel is underrated in my underrated, probably in my
underrated,
hashtag state of being. I appreciate that, Eclipse. Haven't seen you in a while, buddy. Welcome back to the show. Carl, Josie Jewel, underrated? I've heard Jewel called a lot of things, my favorite being the Outlaw. That's the coolest thing ever, the Outlaw Josie Jewel. Underrated is not one of them. Eclipse, I'm curious to ask you, man, why do you think he's underrated? Tell me. I need more, because I want to think that too, but you can't coach speed.
Right. He's always a step behind. Even I've been watching some of the practices where they put the, hour up with the commentary and everything else. And a lot of times when he is dropped back into coverage, he's the guy that's targeted, and he's just one step behind the tight ends. And so while I like having guys like Jewel who are the try hard, who are going to work hard in the gym, they're going to listen to their coaches, they're going to be in the right spot, all those kind of things. It just, there's still a difference between like a Josie Jewell and an Alexander Johnson, the athletic ability and what they can bring to the table and the size and all of that. So I like Jewell as a backup. I don't like Jewell having to come in and be a starter for any long period of time.
Yeah, especially when you're running in the AFC West with a bunch of passing offenses. I mean, you don't have a lot of power I formations. And I know Josh Jacobs is the real deal in Las Vegas there, but no, I don't like it either. So I'm curious, Eclipse, get at us there. Convince me that Joseph's going to be turning it around. And we got Terry Randall coming in here. I appreciate you, Terry. Carl's majestic beard. I had to read that because I didn't want you to say that yourself and compliment
thanks.
Weird, but no, it's looking good, man. It's looking trimmed. It's looking neat. Carl's a handsome young fellow. We appreciate you guys and all of your support. And speaking of support, please go ahead and check us out on Spotify. Leave us a review, a rating, a thumbs up. Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, wherever you guys get your podcasts. And be sure to subscribe to @MileHighHuddle, part of the Maven Coalition with Sports Illustrated. And then we got Cody. Cody's coming in. Carl, Cody's bringing the fire. Don't bring in a guy. Just let the youth play. It should only be for a few weeks anyway. Cody Potter saying maybe week 1 you play with a safety in the box, but we will see. I like it, Cody. I like it a lot because you've got good safeties. You got 2 good safeties, and you got a thumper with Kareem Jackson. I don't want Justin Simmons in the box at all. He's your ball hawk. Do you move Kareem Jackson and stick him up there? Because Kareem Jackson, he can play corner and all that stuff. Can he play linebacker? I don't know, but I think he could lay the wood.
He can. It's just, do you want him taking that with Derrick Henry for an entire game?
Yeah.
Because, Derrick Henry, he's not afraid to obviously run over anyone. And while the Broncos did a great job containing him last year, a big part of that was because of the addition of Todd Davis coming back from injury and Purcell as well being added to the defensive lines, adding some size. And so I do feel great about our defensive line being able to shut down the run game. It's maybe you can have a little bit smaller guy coming up and helping out in some ways. But unfortunately with Derrick Henry, one thing that sticks out is it only takes one play with him. Next thing you know, he's gone for 90 yards.
You were scared of Derrick Henry.
I am.
Carl is like, I've never heard Carl jumps out of planes, guys. All right, he jumps out of planes, parachutes. He's got kids. That's scary. I'm a dad. He's he's got a wife. Marriage can be tough sometimes. Scary. No, Carl's afraid of Derrick Henry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And
I feel like if I ever met him, I would be eaten alive.
You know what I can't stand about Derrick Henry? I'm just gonna say it, dude. His dread on the back. That it's like just a giant. Oh man, it's like a log. I can't do it, man. But I don't have to. I find myself looking at the back of that thing because the guy's always downfield. I'm always seeing the back of his jersey. You're exactly right. The defensive line is definitely beefed up with Jarrell Casey. I think Jarrell Casey knows exactly how his old teammate ran. But we got Joseph coming in here. Joseph, obviously, keeping an eye on the safety news today. What about how's it pronounced? Budda Baker, right?
Yeah, Budda Baker, yeah.
Budda Baker and his $49 million extension. Is Justin Simmons going to ask for too much money now? And if so, does that take money away from Philip Lindsay possibly being re-signed? Joseph, that is an excellent question. Carl, what did you make out of the Budda Baker news and how that relates to Justin Simmons?
Well, one, Justin Simmons is a better safety than Budda Baker. Let's just get that out there right off the bat.
Why is he, Carl?
Why is he?
Yeah, please tell me. Please tell me why, because I know I'm itching for you to hear. I want to hear you say it.
Okay, he's a better playmaker. I mean, obviously, I know interceptions are not the end-all, be-all, but still, you like turnovers from your safety.
Yes.
And Justin Simmons brings that to you. He's got leadership. He's the guy that's always on the field every single play. He's going to be a great guy in the community. All those, I mean, just Justin Simmons is the full package. You could not ask for a better player to be a building block of your franchise. And so what this contract means, he's going to get paid. And he should get paid. He's earned it. And sometimes you just got to bite the bullet and pay the big players the big money. And the Broncos made a mistake by not getting that done. I understand only like 2 of the 12 franchise tag players actually got a contract done because a lot of teams are still trying to figure out what the future holds with all of those things. But at the same time, he deserves it. The Broncos should pay it. And yes, that does mean that other players are not going to get paid. And that's just here's the thing. I'd rather have too many players to pay than not enough. I'd rather not have to go to free agency and have to go pay all these guys, Juwan James, huge money to come in because we don't have playmakers already here to be paying. And so for me, yes, you pay Juwan James, or not Juwan James. You don't pay Juwan James. That was already a mistake. But just you pay him and you keep him around because he is a building block player. And it might mean that we lose Philip Lindsay. You don't pay 2 running backs top money. No team does that.
No. Yeah. No team does that. And when you look at Budda Baker's stats last year, he had 104 tackles, a lot of tackles, 1 forced fumble, 0 interceptions. I think Justin Simmons, what did he get? 4 interceptions last year? So, I mean, okay, great. You locked up a safety, this is like the same thing with the Honey Badger over and over again. I mean, they lock up defensive backs, Patrick Peterson out there in Arizona, and they sit out there and they rot away. So Budda Baker, he's a great player, man. And, how can you ever knock a guy for saying no to any sort of money? But when you start thinking about Justin Simmons, man, I just can't help but think the Broncos may have screwed the pooch a little bit. Justin Simmons is going to command top flight dollar after seeing Budda Baker's contract. Justin Simmons will be the highest paid safety in the NFL. I feel pretty confident saying that. I just don't know if it's with the Denver Broncos, Carl. John Elway definitely likes to hang on to his draft picks that have worked out. And I sent out a tweet today, and when you think about what Justin Simmons has been asked to do, he's done all those things and then some. I mean, the Broncos cut TJ Ward following a Super Bowl year, and it was because they believed in some young kid from Boston College who was too skinny to play as a starter. Well, that skinny kid became a ball hawk and put on weight. He's matured on the football field and off the field, having a family now and being involved with various charities and things like that in Denver. John Elway was quick to say, we're not going to let Simmons get away. Well, nothing can happen right now with the franchise tag and stuff like that. So I just feel like it's going to be one of those things where Justin Simmons is going to ultimately want that dollar, and I don't know if Denver's going to be able to pull the trigger.
Yeah, it's the name of the game. Like I said, you can only pay so much, and but you see all these teams throwing a lot of cash out there. This is one thing you have to understand with the Broncos. They are not cash happy. They are not cash flush, I guess is maybe a better way to say it. They might have a lot of cap space, but unfortunately, nothing against the Bullens. They don't have a lot of cash available. You think of like Jerry Jones, that man, he could just go into his office and pull out an entire drawer of gold bars and say, here you go. He's got a lot of cash. There's a lot of owners out there that have a lot of money.
Yeah, when you work in oil like Jerry Jones did for all those years, you're going to have some gorilla laying around. And, you're exactly right. It's nothing against the Bullens. And I find it fascinating, the numbers that are coming out right now with, attendance and stuff like that. And I don't want to go into all that for this podcast because we have too much football to talk about. We're halfway through our hour, and I'm pumped because we're still getting into the meat and potatoes. We've only talked about linebacker, folks. And I want to hear from you guys. We're talking Justin Simmons' contract. Is he going to get paid? Is he not going to get paid? Let us know. We're also talking about injuries. Which injuries concern you guys the most for the Broncos right now? And you've got some other players that are a little banged up that did practice, like Melvin Gordon. I've been keeping an eye on him. I know you have as well, especially when you're paying a running back $12 million. Looked like it was some sore ribs, but heard that he was out there in practice the last couple of days. So I'm feeling good about that. What's your take on Melvin Gordon with the rib injuries?
Oh, at this point, you want to be more –
right? It's not an official injury.
Yeah. You just want to be cautious with the veterans. They're going to be ready. Like holding out Von Miller. I don't think he's all that banged up, but it's more, one, you want to see the young guys. You want to get them as many snaps as you can. But you also want to protect your veterans as much as you can because they've been through this 5-10 years in the league, and they don't need this as much as the young guys. And you're being as cautious as you possibly can. And so I don't really read too much into any of those injuries. The guys that are going to be day-to-day, they'll get worked out. They got a few weeks to get healed up. Let them get healed up. Let them be 100% for week one rather than 80% because you wanted to get them more snaps in practice.
Yeah, it's just tough, though, because I hear what you're saying, and I also hear what Broncos country's saying when they're like, you got this, you spent all your money on this running back, and now he's not even practicing. I hear you. But it's not like Melvin Gordon's whooping out or anything like that. It's just being careful. This is a time in world history, where being careful is the primary goal in life, and the Broncos have to take those extra precautions. It's that simple. So, as we move on from running back, because I don't feel like the rib soreness is really that big of a deal. It was just something I wanted to mention because you're paying a lot of money with Melvin Gordon, and we had a super chat earlier, and to answer the question with Philip Lindsay, you're not paying Philip Lindsay anything right now. So I really don't think the Broncos are going to lose sleep over spending money on other players with Philip Lindsay in mind.
Yeah. All right, let's get to a few of these soup chats. We got Terry Randall saying #UseTheForceLuke. Thank you, Terry, once again.
Thank you, Terry.
Always appreciate that. And Duke coming in, we shall call you guys the Beards of Knowledge.
Ooh, I like it. Fear the beard, beards of knowledge. That's what I'm about.
We need some kind of theme song or something to go with that.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a song there with that title.
Ooh, the Beards of Knowledge.
And Harry Burgos coming in here with the super chat. I don't know if you guys already discussed this, but do you see Dotson getting to practice with the ones anytime soon? So I will say He did get to practice with Drew Lock today, but it was with the twos. They had Drew Lock run with the twos for I think a session. It wasn't all that much, but he did move up to second team for a little bit. From what I understand, they are taking it very slow with Dotson. They're trying to get Elijah Wilkinson as much opportunity as possible because it's one of those things. I think you already know what you got in Dotson. I don't think he needs a whole lot of run with the ones to be ready for week one, if that's the direction you have to go. They really do want Elijah Wilkinson to win that job. Unfortunately, he's playing at about 80 to 85% healthy right now, still recovering from that injury, and he has been a turnstile. And at some point, you have to make that decision that you just can't have that for week one. So I don't know where that's going to go. I do think Dotson maybe next week will probably start getting some run with the ones, just getting him that conditioning, getting him used to the altitude, and then I think he'll be there. Because from what I've heard, he is dominated, but he's working with third team. He should dominate.
Yeah. And if he's working with the third team, I mean, heck, he could have fathered half of those boys. He's a little long in the tooth. Yeah. And Dotson, man, no disrespect to Dotson, because I was really happy about the signing, and we got to break the news, I think, on air. I think it was with you, right, Carl? Or was it? Yeah. So get at us at Mile High Huddle on Twitter. Get at Carl. Get at me. Get at our whole crew, because we've got news and we've got stuff going 24/7. But yeah, I like Dotson. Definitely not getting first team reps the way Elijah Wilkinson is. I'm just going to leave it there, and with good reason. You don't want to get Dotson hurt either. I mean, with all due respect, Dotson is like that old dog that you have that you help on and off the bed. You're not going to risk that dog jumping on and off. The dog's got tons of life in it, but he's also got tons of miles on him. So you want to try to massage these guys a little bit where you can and make them feel good. He's adjusting to altitude. I know all these things. It's going to drive people crazy, but it is what it is over there. So Dotson not getting run with the ones. Occasionally, yeah, like you said today, he got a few reps with Drew Lock in the twos, but Dotson's right where he should be, and that shouldn't concern anybody. I'm happy he's here. I think, if anything, he's a new voice to help coach Elijah and Garrett Bowles, even though we're not going to talk about him. But yeah, very, very good question, Harry. I appreciate that very much.
And then, of course, we have Pabby coming in. Thank you very much, Pabby. Thank you guys for all you do. Go Broncos. Yes.
Superstar Miss Patty out of Iowa, and it seems like she is doing well. Thoughts and prayers for everybody around the world right now as the country, well, it seems like half of it's on fire and the other half has hurricanes, and then you've got Iowa with the hurricane winds. So thoughts and prayers out there for everybody that needs it, and positive vibes. Pabby, we definitely appreciate you.
Yeah. So I have a question for you on a position group, since we haven't talked about them yet. This is one that everybody had as a huge question mark going into training camp. Cornerback. Do you feel better after 10 practices, about the same, worse? How are you feeling about that group after these practices?
Man, better, worse, or the same? I'm feeling better, but I've got a couple caveats with that. So I'm feeling better in the fact that Bryce Callahan is not hurt. He's been practicing for a few weeks now and seems to be doing well. He's got his ups and his downs, just like any other cornerback. But right now, it seems like he could do very, very well for the Broncos. I prefer him being the slot as opposed to on the outside. But I'm not very happy that Isaac Yiadom is getting so much run. I mean, they just seem to be giving this guy, he's almost like Garrett Bowles. It's just like chance after chance after chance. And Duke Dawson, it is what it is with that kid. But I sent out a tweet today, Carl, and was just like, dude, I'm not hearing a lot about a Michael Ojemudia. He's
hurt.
Yeah. Heard that today with Mike Kliss saying he was working off to the side. And, I'm just like, man, well, we pretty much anointed him a starting corner after the draft. So I feel good with Bryce Callahan. I don't feel good with Isaac Yiadom. Where are you at?
I feel better about the group just as a whole, just because I know Bosby's had his moments in training camp. One of the funniest that I heard of stories from camp was Yiadom started trash talking the offense, and it was after the offense had scored on like 5 straight drives with touchdowns. and he had like one knockdown, and they were like, we just scored 5 touchdowns. What are you talking for? And but I mean, that just kind of sounds like Yadam a little bit. Just, I made one great play, coach. You see that?
Yeah, no, that's
so
not good.
Yeah, but I do feel good about Bosby. I've heard some ups and downs with Yadam. I've heard some ups and downs with Ojemudia. It is nice to hear that Bouye is actually looking like a true number 1 cornerback.
Yes.
Callahan has, like you said, he's had some ups and downs, but he's looked pretty good for the most part. He's usually been in a position to make plays. And so I feel better about the group. I am a little worried about some of these injuries, kind of knickknacks, because cornerbacks, they can't be losing any speed.
You're exactly right. They can't be losing any speed. And Devontae Harris, I know he was sick or something the other day, so he's missed a little bit of time. Not quite sure where things are going to go there, but I mean, the leash has got to be really, really short on Isaac Yadam. And I know Coach talked about it. I feel like it was yesterday, within the last 48 hours or so, saying, basically Coach's favorite thing is to say there's a license for this job, or for them to go get this job, whether it be on offensive tackle, center, and now cornerback. He's waiting for somebody to separate themselves, because right now it seems like Coach is saying they're all pretty much at the same even keel playing field, with the exception of Bryce Callahan and AJ Bouye.
Yep. Howie asking a question here. Has anyone mentioned KJ Hamler's injury update? So I like Fangio's answer today. He pretty much said, I will tell you when there's an update. Stop asking me about it. That's pretty much what he said about KJ Hamler.
He was spicy.
Yeah. He also mentioned, same with Ojemudia. He said, he's not as bad as Hamler, but stop asking about it. I'll tell you when there's an update. And then he also said with KJ Hamler, he said, I hope he attacks it like Drew Lock did with his injury last year, that you work to get better when you're not on the field. And so it does sound like it's going to be a while before Hamler gets back to the field.
That's concerning to me, Carl, and it's concerning because I know that his style of play is that of a track star. He's speed. Yep. That's why he's here. Do I think he can play in the NFL? Absolutely. Do I know whether or not he's going to be a great receiver? No, I don't know that yet. I think the potential is there. He can play in the NFL. That's there. I just don't know what it's going to look like. And I was quick to say that he would be a starter, and this is all but debunked that. For me, when you see these smaller players who are so focused on the speed aspect of their game, these tweaks can happen. You see sprinters and hamstrings commonly. And I just get really, really worried because he puts so much energy and explosiveness into all of his little cuts. It's freaky. I mean, it gives me goosebumps to talk about. It's like Henry Ruggs, Tyreek Hill, same kind of motion, different speed, obviously, because no one can duplicate Tyreek Hill, but that really, I wonder how that rehab is going to look. Does it change his game? Is he able to run those same quick slant routes that he has, or is he just going to be stuck with trying to go deep? How do you make those cuts? How do you respond mentally to the injuries and stuff like that? So definitely a very good one to bring up with wide receiver. How do you feel about it? I mean, KJ Hamler, he is speed demon, but your speed demon doesn't help you when he's hurt.
Yeah. So I said earlier, I think it was a couple weeks ago, that I figured that KJ Hamler would be a little bit limited on what he would bring to the offense this year. Just, I mean, he's got a few things he's got to work on, especially if he's going to play the slot position. Got to get those hands working a little bit better. Got to get a little bit more consistent in what he's doing on the field. And so I did expect, at least early on in the year, he was going to be more of a gadget player. Yes. That'll be missed, because even those just 3 or 4 plays a game make a huge difference of what teams have to prepare for. So that's the part for me that I'm just like, man, that is going to be missed big time if he can't go at the beginning of the year.
You're exactly right. And it spells some of your players. It spells Flash Melvin Gordon. It spells Denver's son, Phillip Lindsay. I mean, if they need a rep and you're able to get that speed in there for a trick play, and I'm not calling for Rich Scangarello trick plays, tight end sweeps, or anything like that, you can definitely figure that out. So, yeah, KJ Hamler, it's interesting as we talk about wide receivers. Heard something today, and maybe everybody else heard it as well. Hearing Jerry Jeudy's a little spicy as well. Jerry Jeudy, he's had a few drops here and there in practice, and Fangio's talked about that a little bit and saying, yeah, we expect some things to go that way and some things happen. But something I heard about Jerry Jeudy that I liked had to go off the field, and it's when the vets are hazing the rookies a little bit. And he had basically said, don't call me a rookie. I've been doing this all my life. And while half of the group is going to say, just shut your mouth, rookie, you got to earn your stripes, I like it because this is something that the Broncos have been missing. They've been missing that fight. To quote John Elway from years ago, the kicking and screaming, that clawing, that little bit of a chip on your shoulder. It felt Emmanuel Sanders-esque to me, and I don't know if it's because he just works out with E, but I loved it. I got goosebumps when I heard that because I'm thinking, there you go. There's a rook standing up for himself, and he better carry those shoulder pads and helmet, and I'm sure he is, because if he doesn't, then we would all be hearing about it. But I don't know what the current restrictions are with touching another player's stuff either. So I wouldn't get too bent out of shape about it. But what do you think about that? It sounds like Jerry Jeudy, he's quiet and reserved, but ain't gonna take no slack from the vets either.
So here's probably maybe one of the top reasons that I wish the Broncos would have re-signed Chris Harris, because those battles between Chris Harris and Jerry Jeudy, Chris Harris does not like to ever admit that somebody might be good.
No, and he's never made a mistake either.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's always somebody else is not in position. And so Jerry Jeudy, I'm sure, would have beat him so many times here in training camp, just like he's doing with Bryce Callahan. Even AJ Boy has had some troubles with him. Everybody's having trouble. And all these, like Callahan, he's going, I love going against him because it makes me better. Chris Harris would be like, the Rook's done nothing. And so I just would have loved to see how he would have reacted when Jerry Jeudy scored that first touchdown. Man, that would have been fun.
Don't say would have. You're going to see it. You're going to see it.
Okay, that's true. We're going to see when it really counts. And that's going to be really nice. And we'll get to hear what he has to say after the game. Yeah, safety wasn't in the right spot.
Right. Yeah. No, the best safety in the game, James, wasn't in the right spot. Yeah, I want to hear how that's going to go. But no, you're exactly right, man. And I start to wonder when you say that Chris Harris versus Jerry Jeudy in training camp, I immediately think of, when's the fight going to happen? Because the rookie's going to take a bunch of heat and stuff like that, but sooner or later, these are grown men, and every grown man has to take a stand for themselves. And case in point, if you're a Broncos fan and you happen to be a Nuggets fan, just switch to the Broncos, because when you want to talk about soft and no fight at all, go ahead and switch your tuners over to the NBA. The Nuggets are just awful. So I look at a team and I want to see if they have fight. Jerry Jeudy seems like he has some fight, and I like that he's starting to have a little bit of a voice. Now, I don't think he's going to be a team captain or a leader. I don't think that's his role. But as just a grown man coming into a locker room, kind of establishing, hey, I can put up and I can say what I want and do what I want. I like that a little bit, man. I like it's some spice from the receiver, your first-round pick.
When I first saw interviews with him, I thought, man, this is like one of the most boring interviews, because he is kind of a monotone speaker and just he's pretty soft spoken.
It's like Royce Freeman, right? The worst interview ever.
Yeah. But again, you see that on the field where all of a sudden he turns it up and he has that energy and gets his teammates excited with what he's doing and does a little dance after he scores a touchdown. Like, I'd rather them show personality on the field than doing an interview. I don't care about interviews with these players. I like what I'm seeing from him. I like that he recovered well after a couple early drops today from practice. That is huge to see. You see a lot of these guys. I mean, there was a story this week about Hamilton getting pulled into Fangio's office to show some big name star wide receiver doing a drop and saying, hey, everybody has him. It's how you recover. Well, Hamilton has shown he doesn't recover well from those. He had that drop week 1 that cost him the game last year. And he just never really got back on track until the last little bit of the season, where he started having some decent chemistry with Drew Lock. But it took him, 10 games before he finally got back on track?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I'm glad you brought that up. I mean, it was revealed today on air, on radio, and in print that Vic Fangio pulled Deshaun aside, just like you said, and they had the real heart-to-heart. And my first thing was, and I'm going to ask you, Carl, and I'm going to ask our MHH family here, who do you think that player was, that receiver with the drops, the elite receiver that Vic Fangio was alluding to? Because I got one guy in mind, and I can spit it out first if you want, but I'm thinking Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman drops a lot of balls. He does. He drops a lot of balls, but you know what? The guy makes some of the best catches I've ever seen in the Super Bowl. So, and he profiles. I know Deshaun's not a tiny guy, but he's a smaller wide receiver.
Yeah.
And, so I wonder, did he put on Julian Edelman film, or who's that receiver that he told Deshaun, emulate your game after this cat?
It's not a guy that he would emulate, but maybe he went the Hall of Fame way with Terrell Owens.
Okay.
Owens had some huge drops. I mean, it just seemed like the easy catches were hard and the hard catches were easy for him.
Yeah. Especially as a rookie, man. I think about his rookie season when I was still just a little boy out there in San Fran, and he was just awful. Awful. Just dropping everything. And then, like you said, one-hand catches, no problem. Two in the chest, sorry, it's not going to get caught.
I still remember that one. I think, was it a playoff game?
Against, the Packers, right?
And he makes that one-handed catch, gets hit by two guys. Just one of the best catches I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think it was the NFC Championship, and then the Packers advanced and won their first Super Bowl that year. 96?
I think you might be right there. But, that's one that always sticks out to me. And so looking at Hall of Fame guys and saying, hey, even these guys had some drops. Maybe Demaryius Thomas. He had some pretty big drops throughout his career as well, and yet was he was the second best wide receiver the Broncos have ever had, right behind Rod Smith.
Thank you. Can you say that one more time?
Second best wide receiver behind Rod Smith.
Did you hear that? And Carl don't spin no games, folks. He's exactly right. Don't ever tell me that Demaryius Thomas was better than Rod Smith. And then you've got other radio hosts in the city already declaring that Jerry Jeudy will be the best wide receiver of all time. And I'm like, whoa, we haven't even played a game yet. So get to championship. Go ahead.
I was going to say there might be another guy on the team that gets that crown before Jerry Jeudy.
Absolutely. Oh, dude, and you got to know that dog is hungry. But, I mean, get 2 Super Bowl rings, be undrafted, be so afraid that you're going to get cut that you work yourself to death. I mean, Rod Smith, I've gotten to meet Rod tons of times. He's as humble as he was then. I mean, every aspect of Rod's life, he goes all out. And the drops for me and Demaryius Thomas, I don't give DT the love that he should get. Because I've just been DT could have been something so different. Stu McPeak coming in with the $9.99. I appreciate you so much, Stu. It's good to see you. Good to kind of hear from you with the donation. Hope you're doing well. We've got Eclipse coming in. Zeus looks like he's having a good time. Some cheers with some good friends. But yeah, Cortland Sutton's a dog that's not getting a lot of talk. I mean, he's showing some really cool videos and stuff like that. But Cortland Sutton, is he kind of being forgotten? Dare I say, in the shadow of a rookie Jerry Jeudy? I mean, that sounded weird saying it.
Yeah, well, it's the shiny new toy. Everybody gets excited, and you might have this great toy that you're always going to play with, and then you've got this new one, and you're like, oh, I got to give this one all the attention. And then I'm not saying that I think both are going to be great.
It's Woody and Buzz Lightyear.
Yeah, exactly. And so
except this Woody isn't Chad Kelly going into someone's house.
Yeah, exactly. But Stu, have a good flight. Thank you for checking in right before you took off there.
Stay safe, Stu.
Yeah,
Stu. Appreciate you, brother.
But yeah, we got a few more super chats before we get out of here. Chris coming in. Before you leave, MHH family, don't forget to hashtag click those little thumbs up with your very respectively sized thumbs. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for that reminder. Everybody, make sure if you have an opportunity, click that like for us. It helps just to get us out there more. The more likes, the more it gets kind of to the front of YouTube and all those different places. So we really appreciate that.
Duke is my boy. Anytime Duke's throwing some fire out there, I got to make sure he gets it. Duke coming in there with "He Hate Me," changed his name to Jawan James. He hate me, of course, of the XFL, and I guess the XFL is coming back. The Rock, I guess, bought it with some people. I don't know, man. I just don't. The NFL is going to have its own difficulties and challenges this year. I don't know where the XFL is going to go, man.
Yeah. Eclipse coming in here with another super chat. Gordon versus Chris Harris Jr. Who gets beat? Hashtag Beards of Knowledge.
Ooh.
I don't think he's going to cover Melvin Gordon a whole lot.
Appreciate it, Eclipse.
But I would like to see if Melvin Gordon gets that swing pass, and here comes CHJ, because he is a good tackling cornerback. I will give him that. That will be a collision to remember. And I'm trying to think. Oh, I guess it was the other way around. Is Kareem Jackson hitting Philip Lindsay?
Oh, dude.
That was a big one.
Oh man, that was a nasty one. And then there was another one. I feel like it was the Cardinals 2 years ago in Philip Lindsay's rookie year. Some Cardinal DB just, laid the wood on Phil, and Phil got up and just started jawing. Gordon versus CHJ. Who gets beat? CHJ every time. Defensive back. Man, that's a tough position to play in this league, whether you're young or old. And Father Time is undefeated, and Chris Harris Jr. is going to have to start figuring that out. I think ultimately he wishes he'd tell you, I think, in a dark room, just you and him, no audio, no phones, no nothing. He probably wishes things could have been worked out with the Broncos, and the Broncos would probably tell you the same thing too. So Gordon versus CHJ. CHJ is getting beat, but I hope Gordon's healthy enough to be on the field for CHJ to get beat.
Yeah, man, we started a real conversation here in the chats here to end this about the DT versus Rod Smith. And then we got Eclipse coming in here with another super chat. Second best to Rod will always be Brandon Marshall. If Brandon Marshall could have been here longer.
You're killing me.
And I love Brandon Marshall. He's one of my favorite wide receivers to watch. Just, again, he's one of those guys that does things that other wide receivers just could dream about. He makes the tough catches. Him in the open field. I'm still I can't remember what game it was, but he made like 8 people miss on one play. To score a touchdown. It was like on a third and like 20 or something like that. It was a long ways, and all of a sudden he just somehow finds a way to pick it up. But just unfortunately, when he's with the Broncos, he wasn't getting the mental health help that he needed. And thankfully later on he did get it and got himself back on track a little bit. Has kind of become an advocate for a lot of that for other NFL players. And so I'm really proud of him for doing a lot of that. But yes, Brandon Marshall, the talent, top 3 for Broncos history, just didn't get to stay here long enough to really be considered that second best guy. DT got to be here. And so it really is kind of that debate between Rod Smith and DT. And I have seen a couple people make comments like DT single-handedly won that playoff game against the Steelers. He had one of the best playoff games a wide receiver's ever had. So I will give him credit for that and making some great plays. It just, the Steelers didn't believe the Broncos could throw over the top.
Neither did I.
Yeah,
neither did anybody. Tebow can't throw anything, and then he was able to muster up a miracle. It was crazy. And Charlie Beagle coming in with Lionel Taylor takes exception to that.
Okay, that is a good name.
So
but he was before my time, so I can't really evaluate him as much as I would like.
Right? Yeah, I hear you. DT in his prime is greater than Rod Smith in his prime. Darian, I appreciate you so much for joining the show, giving me your take and disagreeing. You know why? Because sports is all about disagreeing. It's all about debate. It's about chirping each other, making fun of each other in a friendly way, of course. Be respectful and treat your friends right. But Darian, that being said, my friend, you are so misinformed, and I'm gonna, try to swing you the other way. DT in his prime, if he would have caught all those balls, every drop, if he would have caught 50% of what he dropped, maybe, just maybe. Because the thing for me was always distractions with DT. Is he distracted? Is his heart in the game? But then I think about the Super Bowl that he played a separated shoulder with against the Seahawks and set a Super Bowl record, I think, for most receptions in a Super Bowl at the time. And I don't know if that record still stands, but I look at that and I'm just like, man, to go out there and know that the Legion of Boom is just going to go out there and smack you and break your shoulder and keep pounding, and to go out there and catch everything for Peyton. It gives me goosebumps to think about. So I got to back up some of my DT trash talk a little bit, because tons of respect to DT. And Darian, you're right. DT doesn't get the respect he deserves, but let's not overhype him either, because Rod we trust, and that's never going to change.
Here's what I'll say. DT in his prime was more athletically gifted than Ron Smith in his prime.
You bet. No argument.
Yeah, there's no question about that. But DT as a wide receiver compared to Rod Smith, Rod Smith was the better route runner, had the better hands. I think DT was smart, but Rod Smith was one of the smartest wide receivers I've ever watched. He just knew exactly where he was supposed to be. He was always there, running everything the right way, just making big plays when they absolutely needed a big play. I'm not saying the DT didn't have his moments of having big plays, but I don't know. That would be a tough argument in their prime of who was better. But Rod Smith consistently over his career was better.
Yeah, I got one for you because both guys were not only willing blockers, but great blockers. Two questions for you. Who do you think's the better blocker? And two, game on the line. You're 2 seconds left. You've got to pass it to Rod Smith or Demaryius Thomas. They're both in the game. Who you chucking it to?
Oh, Rod Smith.
I love it. I love it. No hesitation.
Well, like I said, Rod Smith did everything right. He had the better hands. He's the guy that I could just trust that he's going to come up with it. For some reason, he just always seemed to be that guy that
he's
somehow come down with it. Yeah, he is. He's just the most reliable receiver I've seen in a Broncos uniform. DT, like I said, he can make the big play. He could take the swing pass and turn it into an 80-yard touchdown. He could take the slant play and win a playoff game on the very first play. All those kind of he was a bigger player than Rod Smith. But I still
how about the blocker? Who's the better blocker out of the two? Because they're both. I mean, DT's obviously bigger, right? So you think sometimes bigger means better on that edge. Not necessarily. I mean, Rod Smith was just as technical in his blocking. So was Eddie Mack, you know, as they were at their route running. So
I'll give DT blocking. I was always impressed that, especially during the Tebow years, he never complained that they were running the ball 90% of the time.
Yep.
So I will give him that. But we got Terry Randall coming in with another super chat. # state of being, # Broncos world. Really appreciate it. And oh man, we got a little bit more. We're going.
Y'all are killing it tonight.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. JP YF coming in. Luke and Carl, you guys are awesome. Much love. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you so much. Awesome. Yeah, that really means a lot to us. And you know what? It's like I said earlier, y'all don't always have to agree with us. When you disagree and when we disagree with each other, that's what I love the most. Because anyone could sit up here and just agree with each other. But Broncos country, they don't do that. They tell the truth, man. And that's why they're the most knowledgeable fan base in the NFL. So thank you so much, JP. I appreciate that.
Yes, appreciate everything, guys. And hit us up on Twitter. You can find me at Carl Dumler, MHH, and Luke at Luke Patterson, LP. And, talk to us about this disagreement. If you think it is DT, if you think that he's the better wide receiver, hit us up, ask us more questions about it, why we believe the way we do. I've seen a couple other names, Ashley Lally. No.
From University of Hawaii, right? Yeah. No. A good receiver, though. A good receiver.
Yeah. I saw another Brandon Lloyd. His one season, I will give him. That was an absolute amazing season. And some of the best catches as a Denver Bronco that I've ever seen. So, yeah, we'd love to have the conversation with you guys. But I think that's going to pretty much do it for us here today. Like I said, make sure you're following us on Twitter. You can also follow the Twitter account at Mile High Huddle for Huddle Up Podcasts and at BTB Football Pod for Carl. For Luke. Carl. Yeah, sorry. Wrapping up another episode of the Building Broncos podcast. Remember, the two of us are going to be back together on Saturday. So don't miss that. 7 o'clock my time, 6 o'clock your time, Luke. And we hope you guys enjoyed this. And we hope to see you all soon on Saturday. Thank you guys again for joining us. Love you all. Go Broncos.
Go Broncos.